And as you're in the flow, you're going down your river and you see somebody clinging to a rock. You're like, hey, let go. Come on, let's go. It's fun. It's fun. Let's go.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that. No, that's great.
They're like, where are you going? You're like, I don't know. Let's just go.
Watch out for that rock and don't hold it.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's awesome.
Welcome to the Akashic Recordings. My name is Annette DeLu. I'm an Akashic conduit, channel, and spiritual guidance coach. What you will be hearing today is a real session with one of my clients. All the names have been changed for privacy, and of course, with their permission, we are privileged to hear these beautiful stories to allow us a small glimpse into the Akashic Records. If you would like to book a session with me and be part of the podcast, please feel free to head to my website at infinitesoullove.com. When you book your session, just make sure to check the box that you would be interested in having your session utilized for the podcast. Soul Discovery Workshop is rapidly approaching for our next session. You have just 1 week left for registration for Soul Discovery Workshop. You can pay in full. You can also pay in 4 increments. Classes will be starting mid-August. We haven't chosen a date yet because I'm going to wait to see who registers, and we're going to decide on a date together what works best for everyone's schedule. I cannot wait to connect with all of you, to help you with your spiritual gifts and teach you how to access the Akashic Records and form these beautiful bonds as you will with all of the rest of the people in the course. So make sure you head to my website on June 12th to register for Soul Discovery Workshop. This session with Leena is overall about communication. There are a lot of touch points in some of the past lives that we look at with her that really touch on how we communicate with one another. It also touches on the idea of control versus going with the flow. And interestingly enough, being a connector and helping people go with the flow as they connect is Leena's sole purpose. We explore what that means for her. And in the discussion afterwards, I link this back to how we communicate not only to others, but to ourselves, how important laughter and joy is on this journey, and authentic, compassionate expression. Wonderful. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. I guess I'm a little nervous.
Is this your first session?
It is, yeah.
All right. So let me help you to sort of dissuade any nervousness. Basically, the guides will never give you anything that you're not ready for. Okay.
Right.
So it's all going to be guided by your higher self, your guides, my guides, and they basically will let you know the things that you need to know in order to help expand your awareness, to help you understand who you are as a soul, and all of those beautiful bits of information.
Great.
If there are things that are challenging, they do usually sort of ask if you're ready for that kind of thing. So they'll give me a heads up to say, hey, this is going to be a little bit more challenging information. Just check in, see how they're doing, so.
Oh, perfect. Cool.
No worries. Was there anything else specifically that you were nervous about?
I guess just the unknown about it. I'm very excited though. Happy to be here.
Good. Okay. So do you have an idea of what you would like to cover today?
Yeah, I do. I think my questions are going to be centered around what my soul purpose is and why. I kind of went off some of your suggested questions just for a guide, but just why I did incarnate at this time. Also just curious about soul contracts and like if I'm actually in the midst of a new one, and my ex-husband, which is a most recent transition. Mm-hmm. Just kind of clarifying what that purpose is and was, and if it's the contract is complete, I guess. I'm curious about any lifetimes that may be negatively affecting my course journey right now, and if I've had past lives with recent and current partners. I'm also just curious about my current state of being, which has always been that I've always been kind of anxious.
Okay.
And kind of a perfectionist.
Mm.
I've got all kinds of interesting things that have come up. I've had a lot of trauma
Mm-hmm.
in this lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
and I am really curious about what those lessons are about. I'm grateful for all of it, but I'm also really curious why there have been so many things that have happened in my short 58 years
All right.
in my career. That's all.
All right. Okay. So there is something here that is getting ready to sort of depart from your energy field. I am seeing it's almost like a black crust that is over your root chakra, but it's sort of melting off like a giant piece of burnt cheese. Like it's just kind of melting
Yeah.
and it's like it's done and it's kind of moving out of the chakra,
Okay.
which is really good. And what that tells me is that like you have been working on this and you've been working on this pretty regularly for the majority of this lifetime. And your root chakra has to do with your safety, your security, your sense of home, how you feel in your own body, how you feel at home, the safety at home, that kind of thing. So you have been really working on that. And the experiences that you mentioned that you had near the beginning of your life and forward, the trauma that you've had, was sort of a catalyst for that healing. It was able to jar the past life issues that you had in the root chakra. From not even being in the records just yet, I can tell that essentially the trauma that you had in this lifetime is definitely reminiscent of something you had in a previous lifetime, and it's why you had to have it in order to finally deal with it and clear it. So I have a feeling we're going to see some similar types of trauma in this past life that we'll look at, because we will take a look at it so we can clear it once and for all.
Great.
It's new and baby-like. So you've also done a lot of work on your sacral chakra as well. And so what I'm seeing is that it is clear, which is great. And I'm seeing a very small pinpoint of orange light, which is lovely. And it's very clear, it's beautiful, but it's very small. It's like a baby light. Basically, that is sort of how we begin after we do our healing. Our chakras start to come back online slowly. Because if they came back online with a big, bright, shining light after doing a lot of clearing, it might be a bit overwhelming. So you're just now starting to rediscover that divine feminine within you, that creation energy within you, that manifestation, and that sexual energy. And it's something that is brand new to you.
Yeah.
It's a brand new energy. It's not like sexual energy is brand new to you, but this is a different type of sexual energy.
Right.
It's more healthy. And I'm hearing the word interconnected. So interconnected is a word they sometimes use when they're referring to that beautiful give and take and a connection versus codependency.
Yes.
What's interesting about your solar plexus chakra is that you have been working so hard on the lower two chakras that your solar plexus hasn't really been worked on just yet. Now, the nice thing is, though, is that I'm not seeing anything that needs to be cleared from your solar plexus. It's just you haven't really spent a lot of time cultivating it. And so the solar plexus represents your personal power, like how you show up in the world, how people perceive you, and how you perceive the world through other people's eyes, those types of things. Okay.
Right.
So that is something that is sort of new to you as well. You're starting to identify what that looks like in this new energy, and you're still not quite sure what that looks like yet, and that's okay. There's not a whole lot that you need to do in order to cultivate that. It'll just sort of come naturally.
Great.
So then let's move that energy up to your heart chakra. The first words I'm hearing are leave the past behind.
Yeah.
And that has to do with this current life. This doesn't have to do with the previous lifetimes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hearing that there is something in here where you are on the precipice of feeling and experiencing just pure divine love. And you are wanting to experience it. You're ready to experience it.
Yeah.
But then the past is tugging on you going, yeah, but what if this happens again?
Yeah, totally.
And they're saying, don't look at that. Don't worry about it. It's been dealt with. You've worked through it. Don't worry about it. It's not coming back.
That's great. Good.
My guides are really funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they are.
I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah, no. They show me things that are just really they'll show it to me in like cartoon form. They show it to me in all kinds of ways. So like, it's just, they're really funny.
That's awesome.
Basically what they're they're showing me is your guides and your intuition and all of that is like knocking on your crown chakra. And if you imagine the crown chakra like a little trap door at the top of your head, and you are below the trap door, keeping the trap door nice and tightly shut. And on the other side are your guides and all of this beautiful divine information, like knocking on the door saying, hey, are you ready for the information? We think you're ready. You're ready. You're good. You're like, nope, don't think I'm ready yet. Nope. Nope. I don't think I'm ready yet. They're like, but you are ready. You're like, I don't think I am. I think I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And so it's funny because you are very, very ready to receive the information and the intuitions and everything else. It's just kind of fear that's keeping those trapdoors shut. Okay.
Right.
Your guide and your spirit team, they're just sort of patiently waiting on the other side going, okay, she'll open it up eventually. Just pay attention to when you're getting those little nudges.
Yes.
And understand that it is safe for you to open up and receive those messages. And if it helps to make you feel more safe, and this is a practice that I recommend everybody does, is to just put a bubble of protection around you. So imagine that you have a beautiful light in the center of your heart, which you do, and imagine that light just expanding out in every direction until you have this beautiful bright bubble of energy around you going like 6 feet, 2 meters in every direction. And then just imagine that that bubble is offering that divine light protection. So whatever messages you receive, you know, are coming directly from your guides. You're in a protective space and you can spend the time getting that information.
Great.
The thing that I often do, and this is something that not everybody does, everybody's different when it comes to their intuition, but I personally don't necessarily like when things come in when I'm out and about living my three-dimensional life.
Right.
I kind of set business hours, you know, I'm like, okay, when I'm in session or when I'm in my meditations, that's when messages can come through. And if my guides really need me to know something and I'm not paying attention, I'll get signs everywhere and I'll be like, okay, I got to connect in. They've got something for me.
Yeah. You just kind of protect that time frame.
Correct. Because I think sometimes people are afraid that if they open up their intuition and their third eye, that basically they're just going to be seeing spirits everywhere and they're going to be bombarded by, you know, all of these things. And while that can happen to some people, we do have our own free will and we do have our own personal power to be able to set those boundaries and say, okay, yeah, we will open it up, but we're going to shut down all the intuitive chakras if we're going to be out and about in the world going grocery shopping, and we don't want everybody in the world being able to sense our energy or feed off our energies. There are ways in which you can do this that make you comfortable. And as you move forward in your spiritual gifts and sort of really identify what they are, then you might become more comfortable with being open a little bit more often. Set that time frame where you're just going to be open and you're going to receive, and then you can shut it back down and then go about your business.
That's actually great.
Good.
I feel like I'm hyper connected to the world anyway and overly sensitive. I was recently kind of diagnosed, I guess you could call it, as a highly sensitive person, which I guess is actually a thing now, which I thought was interesting because I have always been tuned in and tapped in and all that others' energy in there, where they're at almost.
Yeah.
To me, I think that that's what can tend to be what's overwhelming to me and maybe what causes my resistance to being even more open to being connected. But I like what you're saying here. This sounds so malleable and actually workable.
Exactly. And the thing is that I feel like the biggest issue with coming into your gifts like this, or the fact that you've had them your whole life, is that nobody really talks about the fact that we have our own power to draw our own boundaries. It's like the world has kind of taught us to put our faith in other things. Like if we're going to have to protect ourselves, we have to use sage, or we have to call on our angels or guides, which they certainly do help. Don't get me wrong. They absolutely help and they're really great at helping. But you can use your own energy to set those boundaries, and you can do it strongly and with confidence, and it will stick.
That's exciting. No ceremony needed.
No, it's really not. The ceremonies can help if you have less confidence, let's say, in what you're doing. So what tools can do, so let's say you're using sage, Palo Santo, if you're using herbs, if you're using something else to help anchor in a manifestation or help clear a space, I use a lot of crystals, mainly because I just love them and I think they're pretty and they're awesome. And they do help with the vibration, but my energy is going to be stronger than any of those crystals.
Totally.
So it's like, can they amplify? Certainly. They can certainly amplify. But is it necessary? No.
I like that. That's good information. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm seeing like your third eye like shut tight. You know when kids don't want to see something and they shut their eyes really, really tight, that they're like squinting their eyes while their eyes are shut? Like that's what I'm seeing.
Yes.
They're saying you can relax and understand that. Yes. Okay, that makes sense. So what you would have seen as a child with your third eye and with your vision is going to be completely different than what you're going to see now.
Okay.
When we see stuff on the other dimensional planes, it really depends on where our energy lies. And because like energy attracts like energy, if we're in lower energy, then we are going to see lower energies. If we're in higher energy, we're going to see higher energies.
Yeah.
Which is why, sort of by nature, when you are in lower energies, it's really hard to connect to the higher energies because you're connecting to a different frequency.
Right.
So what they're saying to me is because of all the work that you've done throughout your life, whatever you saw, whatever you experienced as a child, it doesn't apply anymore. There's nothing to worry about, that you are, in fact, graduated, if you will, moved on to a different place of energetic existence, and there's nothing to be afraid of anymore.
Oh, that's great. I think I've always been nervous that I was wearing it like a vest, to be honest, and that it wasn't something that could be shed without professional help. Although I've just done so much work and so much looking right at it. I'm somebody that always just kind of goes through the things that have happened to me. Very present, always just very curious and very grateful at the same time, even no matter how bad it has been. And it's been horrible. Mm-hmm. Many, many times I haven't turned, I haven't disengaged, I have just walked through.
It's a good analogy, actually, the vest analogy. I often refer to it as like a psychic debris coat. It's like all of the negative energies or all of the things that have happened that have colored our experience. It's like wearing a coat of psychic debris of all of the trauma that we've experienced. And so each time you deal with it or walk through it or do what you need to do to heal from it, it's like you're taking off another layer of the coat.
I love that. I feel like I thought that I had been carrying those coats. It's funny how your perception of what you think may be what's going on can color like your outward vision of like where you're at with your healing, I guess, or, where you're at with your evolution, I guess.
Absolutely.
I don't know how else to explain that.
So I like to describe it as this. So if you imagine you're a beautiful, pure, divine, shining soul, and imagine yourself as a beautiful, bright light. Then imagine that you have a circle of psychic debris that is making it slightly difficult to see outside of that bubble. So you can see beyond that, maybe you can see a little bit of light, but it's starting to get a little hazy. And then you add on another trauma. Okay, so that's another layer. And then another trauma and another trauma and another trauma. So then you've got this layer of psychic debris that is so thick that you, as your bright shining soul on the inside, is experiencing life through this layer of absolute drudging crap, right?
Right.
And so that is your perception of the world because that is what you're looking through.
Yeah.
The more you clear it, the more you realize what is on the other side isn't this layer of drudging crap. It's actually really beautiful.
Right.
And so then you start seeing more of your own soul and how beautiful you are. And then you start seeing more of your own soul reflected back at you through other people.
Ooh, I love that. That's good stuff right there. I think I feel brand new right now. And even though I've got still that anxiety, it's such an interesting thing that you said that you're even mentioning any of that, because I feel childlike. And I always have been anyway, kind of personality wise, but even more, it almost feels nostalgic. Like I'm kind of getting back to before maybe anything ever happened.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really interesting.
All right. So then let's move that energy down into the throat chakra and we'll see what's going on there. So I'm seeing a lot of green there. And what that shows me is that you are speaking from the heart. So typically a throat chakra is usually a blue. And because I'm seeing green coming out of your throat, that means that tells me that you're speaking from the heart. So that's a really beautiful thing. It's sort of striped with some of the blue, and there's a little bit of a darker blue in there at times. And that is sort of the old way of communicating, the old way that you used to communicate. And so where you were communicating from before was through your hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And not your heart.
Right.
So it's like there are still streaks of that come through, but they're few and far between. It's not a lot. It's just every so often you'll get that little tiny like trigger or twinge and you're just like, and then eventually it passes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just part of the transition of what you're going through.
Right.
Is there anything that we need to look at from a past life at those sort of darker streaks? Yes. Okay. That'll help those move along. Yes. Okay. So we'll take a look at that then. I want to thank Akula, my Akashic guide. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon for guiding us through the records today. Today, we are opening up the Akashic Records. Okay, where do we need to go first? We're going to go to the root chakra first. We're going to clear out that weird burnt piece of cheese that's in there. I love the visuals they give me. It's so funny.
I know, I love it. I'm an artist. I like the visual.
Lovely. Okay, so I'm getting this was 6 lifetimes ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you have been working on this for a fair bit. It was a tough life. Overall, I'm seeing the end of your life. I'm seeing that you died of smallpox.
Oh, wow.
But it was like the end of a life that was just wrought with suffering and pain. Almost as if, and this is horrible to say, but almost as if the smallpox were a blessing. Like you were just like, even though it's a painful disease, you were like, okay, finally I can go. I don't want to be here anymore. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. So let's back up and see what happened during that lifetime, please. Wow. Okay. So it started like right out of the womb.
Oh.
I don't know. Back in the day, they used to occasionally birth children like in fields and things like that. So like, let's say the mother was standing or propped up in some way. And as you came out of the birth canal, like you landed on the ground, like nobody caught you. And so like, you know, for a baby, that's a far distance to fall, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, it was already a shock coming out of the womb, like that you just landed on the ground and nobody caught you and you felt very like unsafe and alone.
Yeah. Wow.
Afterwards, your mother did hold you, but like, there was some sort of delay in her holding you. And I think it had to do with her own health. Like there was something with the birth that made it so she needed to be bedridden and they didn't let her hold the child for a while. The only person that was around, there was the doctor after the fact because he wasn't there for the birth, but like the doctor was there after the fact. And then I'm hearing her sister, your mother's sister, so your aunt was there. She had never had any children yet. She was quite young. And so she didn't really know what to do with a baby. She was kind of like awkward with you. And then of course the doctor wasn't holding you in any loving way. So like he was more clinical about it. So for the first several days of your life in this lifetime, like you just didn't get any nurturing. And by the time your mom did start holding you, it was like you had already developed this fear of not being cared for. And this just sort of carried on throughout your life of feeling like I'm not being cared for and something bad is going to happen.
Right.
And because you started that life with that energy, that's kind of the energy that you started attracting to yourself.
Right.
So I'm seeing you grow up as a toddler and you just like, I'm hearing your mom say something like, gosh, you just have the worst luck. I'm seeing you like stub your toe on something that was just, you know, kind of a bizarre way to hurt your foot. And then like, yeah, it's almost like whatever could go wrong is going wrong with everything that you do. And then you come home and you tell your mom and just reinforce it even further. And she's just like, you know, maybe you just need to look at the brighter side of things because, you know, that happens to everybody. Like everybody has these things happen. And you're like, no, I don't see this happen to everybody else. It's only happening to me. And why is it that it's always happening to me? And so you got into this like really, really deep victimhood. And I'm hearing your mom say something to the effect of, I wish you could see what I see. I wish you could see the beauty in you. I wish you could see the love that people have for you because you were really loved in your community, but you just didn't see it. You just thought everybody was out to get you.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to go to a little bit older. You were a like early teenager. Those early teenage years are always very awkward, right? So like
Yeah.
you were pretty awkward looking and mortified about it. Your mom is so kind and so wonderful, and she's just so warm, and she's like, honey, it's normal. Like, this is how everybody is. This is how everybody goes through life. Like, it won't last. It's fine, you know? And you were convinced that you would just be like ugly forever.
Right.
And you weren't, but it was just your perception. It created a lot of anger in you too. I'm hearing your mom have a conversation with a neighbor, and they're talking about you. And, you know, your mom just has this reputation for just being this super kind, beautiful soul. And people are like, why is your daughter so angry? Like, why is she so angry? And she tries to defend you and say, you know, oh, she's just, you know, she's had a hard time of it. And, you know, I'm trying to help her through it. And somebody says, oh, well, I have a son who will be looking for a wife soon. If you would like for her to be able to learn how to act properly, is what this woman is saying.
Oh my gosh.
And your mom is very like hesitant and says, okay, well, you know, we'll take a look and see. She didn't necessarily think it was the right thing to do, but she also didn't want to insult the woman. You just sort of ended up having to meet this boy, and he was very stern, very proper, and very unkind. He wasn't a very kind person. He was just very stoic, not at all like your mother. Like your mother was so warm, and this person, this man, was just not very nice.
Right.
The really interesting thing, I'm not seeing a father. So what is going on with her dad? Is he around? He's there, but he's not present. He was working most of the time. Okay. You had two brothers that he was involved in, but he didn't really pay much attention to you.
Interesting.
He kind of saw you as a burden in a way, because how negative you were all the time. And I hear him keep on saying to you, like, just be grateful for what you have. Why are you so ungrateful?
Oh, wow.
Okay, so it turns out that you did end up marrying this boy. The marriage went through contrary to what your mother wanted. Your mom didn't want this to happen, but your father kind of pushed it through because he kind of just wanted you out of the house.
Yeah, I can see that. Oh, interesting.
This started a very emotionally abusive relationship. Essentially, any emotion that you had, he would shut down. He would tell you that you were not allowed to feel it. You questioned it though, because you're like, we're both very young. And you haven't been living much longer than I have. Like, I think he was maybe a couple of months older than you. And you're like, I'm sorry, you don't know this much about the world and life, because I certainly don't. So I know you don't either, you know? So this was kind of your sort of idea of like, yeah, no, I'm not going to follow you because you're kind of an idiot. And that really pissed him off, because he was basically saying, I'm your husband. I'm the one that calls the shots.
So interesting. I mean, it's just paralleling a bit of well, anyway, it sounds a little bit familiar.
Yeah, that's why they were saying like some of this stuff is crossing over into this lifetime because of the fact that it needed to be addressed and cleared.
Right. And, you know, just even being the personality I am, which is a very cheerful, joyful person. It's interesting to hear that I was angsty, but I think they probably got worn out from it all.
Yeah. And actually, because this was 6 lifetimes ago, you've been working on this for 6 lifetimes. So you've gotten to a point now where you can understand and know how to be joyful.
Yeah.
The biggest part that I feel like you were clearing in this lifetime is your personal power and standing in your personal power.
Yeah.
And being able to stand up for yourself and not let other people tell you who you are.
Boy, no kidding. Love it.
Throughout the marriage, and I'm hearing that you were only married for 3 years before you died.
Oh, wow. So I was with him when I passed.
You were still married to him, but you were, by the end of that 3 years, you were a shell of a person. Like, you barely spoke, because anything that came out of your mouth, he would tell you to shut up. He would tell you that you're stupid, that you don't know what you're talking about, that like anything, it didn't matter what it was. You just shut down as a person. Like, you were like, why am I even here?
Wow. Right.
And when I'm seeing you at one point with your husband and you see your parents again, and your mom sees you and was like, I don't even recognize her. Like, who is she?
Wow.
And for her, that was horrific. Like, she was like, oh my God, where is my daughter? And your father was like, yes, look, it worked. So like, he was happy that this power hungry man child was like putting you under his thumb, essentially. So your dad was happy about that. Your mom was like, oh my God, what did he do to my daughter? And I keep on hearing you say like nowhere is safe.
Yeah.
And especially nowhere. Oh, here's what's interesting. Okay. Here's a little addendum to that. Nowhere is safe where there are men.
Oh, interesting. That's me identifying with men in general.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
Because you recognize the love that your mom gave you in that lifetime, and you recognize the nurturing she was trying to give you. Even though from the beginning of that life, you didn't feel safe and secure, at the very least, you were able to feel some of that with her.
Right.
But everything that you felt from your father in that lifetime, like I said, he was absent, so abandonment. And then when he was there, he was making your life worse. So it was like,
yeah, right.
How is it that he's making decisions for my life when he doesn't even know who I am?
No, right.
As you were laying in bed dying of smallpox, there was a thought in your head where you were thinking, I hope I take him down with me.
At least I had a little fire.
Yeah. Oh no, you had you had quite a bit of fire in this life, definitely.
Right.
It was just punched out on the exterior by your husband. So like you shut up and you basically became a shell of a person on the outside to everyone else, but inside that fire was still there. You just knew you couldn't express it, otherwise you would get in trouble.
Right.
And they are saying there was physical abuse as well.
Wow.
So they're saying like it wasn't considered physical abuse at the time because at the time it was perfectly okay for men to slap their wives. So yeah, so after that life, after you crossed over in that life, so they are showing me that you did take an exit point with that lifetime. So technically you were supposed to live longer in that lifetime, but you were like, you know what? I think I'm done. I think this is enough for this lifetime. I think we need to, hit the reboot button and start over again. So that's essentially what you did. So knowing this lifetime is helping you in a lot of ways because it can help you understand that you are responsible now in this lifetime for creating your own foundation, for creating your own safety and security, and you are fully capable of it.
Yes.
You don't have anybody holding something over you. You don't have anybody controlling you.
Right.
You don't have anything in that vein in this lifetime.
Right. Totally.
So that's a whole bunch of layers of coats that you can just let go.
That's so great.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great.
When we looked at the chakra, like I said, the black crusty part was already on its way out. It's something that you already have been working on for this lifetime. And so it's just a matter of letting the rest of it go.
Yeah, great. That's such good information. Love that being affirmed.
All right. So let's take a look at where we need to go next, unless you have any questions.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to look at your soul purpose next. Okay, how many lifetimes do we need to look at for this? Just one. This next lifetime we're looking at is 12 lifetimes ago.
Oh, wow.
Oh, just to let you know, you've had thousands of lifetimes. It's not that this is like that far back. So just to let you know.
Oh, okay. Oh, man. No wonder I'm so tired all the time, Annette.
Right. It's why we all are. We've all been here so many times. We're like, okay, are we done yet?
Right.
Let's take a look at what happened in that lifetime. Okay, I'm hearing the words, she's on the precipice of cracking the code. All right, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? You're really good at discovering patterns in things. I'm seeing you like group things together, observing them and identifying what each thing has in common with each other.
Mm.
I'm hearing you're an orchestrator, really good at orchestrating things. So like having these groups of things like put together. And then once you have things in groups, you can be like, okay, that goes over there. That goes over there. You can help that person over there. That person can help this person. Like you are like a conductor of sorts. Okay. They're saying, because I was trying to ask like what they were talking about with cracking the code. They're like, don't get hung up on that. That was just a way to get you to understand what we were talking about. So what else do you need to tell us about this particular lifetime that we're seeing where she's the orchestrator? That's really cool. Okay. So what I'm seeing is in this particular lifetime, you're observing groups of people and you're seeing, let's say, for example, you can see other orchestrators such as yourself, because you're not the only one, obviously. So you're looking at other orchestrators, and there could be one orchestrator that is organizing, let's say, an army, or like a sports team that they're orchestrating a sports team, or they're orchestrating something else. And all of those things are sort of about control. It's like, I'm going to orchestrate and I'm going to control. And then you're looking at the orchestration out of love. And the orchestration out of love looks like flow. It looks like synchronicity. It looks like all the right things coming together at exactly the right time. you are in this particular lifetime, not the one you're currently in, but in the one we're looking at 12 lifetimes ago, you were basically on the precipice of figuring out the difference between those two things. And so realizing that shifted and changed the way that you showed up in this world.
I see. I totally see.
So your soul and your soul purpose has been various different things over the course of your lifetimes. But the common thread in what you have been doing is orchestration.
Yep.
You are a divine channel for divine source energy to be able to orchestrate things or get things into place where they need to be. Now, sometimes that energy can get distorted based on where you are in your own energy field. This is part of the reason why you being highly sensitive is really important, actually. It's a superpower rather than a hindrance, because being highly sensitive helps you to understand what needs to be done in the highest light and compassion.
Yes, I feel like that's exactly where I'm at. It's almost like this came to me through everything I've been through. It came to a head in November, and I didn't know how to deal with a lot of what was happening in our world. And I also knew that I was of a different mindset of, well, this is where you need to put your nose down, open your heart center, and be of service. So I'm like completely, almost like it's just like a complete drive to, I'm orchestrating like classes that are somatic. I'm not a somatic healer, but I come in contact with people because their synchronicity is happening constantly and flow is happening constantly. And I'm coming into contact with the right people at the right time, continuously right now. It's like manifestation is happening almost like light speed. What feels like my purpose. My career has been a working artist that exhibits all over the country. And all of a sudden now I'm wanting to integrate education through the arts tied to helping people have a tool belt for repairing their nervous systems, because a lot of people are in fight or flight.
Yeah.
Including myself. And I feel like this calling is just something that I'm needing for my own healing. And it just so happens that I love to help others. So it's interesting that this is happening.
Things that your mom said to you in that previous life that we were just looking at was, don't pay attention to all of the negative things that are happening to you. Focus on the positive, right? Now, there is something that, we kind of talk about in spiritual circles, like toxic positivity and how that can be really dangerous. And I agree, that can be really dangerous. It's like being an ostrich and sticking your head in the sand. But there is an element of turning away from something and turning towards another. So turning away from the energy of control orchestration and turning your attention towards the flow and divine orchestration that you are able to very adeptly put together. Growing that energy is going to be way more powerful than the control energy.
That's great.
That's what is needed. That's what you're here to do right now.
Yeah, it feels like it. It almost feels like I don't even have I know we talk about free will, but this feels like I feel like a conduit right now. I feel like, when I speak to others about, kind of how I'm feeling and where I'm going with my goals, it feels like something else I sometimes feel like I'm above myself witnessing what I'm saying, if that makes sense.
It does.
Like spirit speaking through me.
100%.
It feels effortless and the words are always there.
So guess what that's called?
What is that called?
You are channeling, my dear.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. A lot of what I do here in sessions, like I channel a lot as well. And when you channel, when you listen back to the recording, you'll notice when I'm channeling, because when I channel, the words are very clear. You will not hear me say or like it's very clear. It's got a very particular cadence to it.
Yes.
And you'll be able to hear the difference when you listen to the recording.
Oh, that's interesting.
A lot of the channeling that you're doing has to do with the openness you have through your creative gifts.
Yeah.
And because you have been so open in your creative gifts throughout your life, it is actually pretty easy for you to tap into it, in addition to it being your soul gift, but it is something that is very strong for you.
Yeah, I feel like that's true. And, when you're trying to find the right words to say, it's interesting when all of a sudden you feel, like you said, a cadence and everything kind of falls into place and you feel lit up when you're actually in exchange with somebody and they get lit. They're like going, oh, like really affected. And I feel like, oh, that just happened to me. I don't ever feel like I conjured that. It came from thought. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, the way that I like to describe it is it's like you're channeling that divine source energy through your crown chakra and it comes out your heart space like a Care Bear.
Yes. Yeah, I feel it there.
It's technically not your energy, but you're channeling that divine source energy through you.
Right. That's what I mean by feeling like I didn't pull it through my brain. I feel like in fact, most recently, the best descriptive I've had is that my heart feels too big for my chest. Like the size or, like my rib cage is not, it's a good feeling. It's not a bad feeling. It feels expansive, I guess is the best word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
So you already know that you're on your path and your path is just beginning.
Yeah.
This is going to be something that you're going to just find that everything just falls into place for you.
I feel like that.
When you said that, oh, I'm not a Reiki healer, but I can connect to Reiki healers that I know or something like that, they wanted me to be very clear with you about this. You don't need to be a Reiki healer. You don't need to be any particular type of healer because you are the orchestrator. So you are the connector. You are the person that is connecting all of those things together to amplify and to shine the light on. Okay. So if you want to delve into a couple of different modalities, you certainly can just for fun, but it's not like you are going to be somebody who's going to be like, I've discovered this practice, and so this is the practice that I'll be doing for everybody else. It's not that.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be doing something like what I'm doing or
right.
Reiki specialists do or something like that. You're the one that is orchestrating. So whatever that looks like for you is going to be for you to discover and unfold.
Okay, that's good information because I think I was having a hard time identifying messages that were coming in. And I think from what you're saying, it makes sense that I think I'm just a full-time working artist. It's just like almost my makeup. And then when I teach, then I have that kind of channeling feeling when I'm with my students. And I also kind of connect it to real life experiences. So in the midst of, let's say, drawing an essay, it's interesting how people get in their heads. And I'm like, well, this is good practice about how not to get in your head. This is how you let go and just have the experience and not get attached to the moment so much. But I kind of started thinking, do I need to, in my new life that I'm moving into, do I need to go into forest bathing and get certified? And I just kept telling myself in my head, my intuition was like, why add something else? You're doing it right now. What you're doing is you're connecting with other people to collaborate. But even more, I'm seemingly orchestrating with ease the collaboration.
If you wanted to just go and get certified in forest bathing, cool. Go do it if you really feel like you want to do it.
Right.
But don't feel like you have to turn that into a business of some sort, right?
Right.
It's whatever you do learn, whatever modalities you take classes in or learn about, it's just going to fuel more of that ability to connect and to orchestrate.
Okay, great. I think that's good information.
Don't worry about having to okay, I'm going to have to stop doing art and I'm going to have to stop doing what I'm doing to go and do this other thing. That's not what they're saying. Continue to do art, continue to do the things that you do, and how that evolves and grows is going to be very, very natural. You're not going to have to force it at all.
Great. Love that.
They're saying you're on the right path.
Oh, that's great.
And you help more people than you know.
I love that.
Okay, so is there anything else that we need to know about her soul purpose? Not at this time. Do you have any other questions about your soul purpose?
I don't think so. That was really great.
I just connected in with your current partner and the guides are like, stop worrying, stop worrying, stop worrying. Everything's fine.
That's good. Oh, man.
You have had past lives with him and they've all been pretty harmonious.
Right.
He's a totally different kind of soul than you are, though.
Yeah. Huh.
Super different, from another planet kind of different. And you're just like, how is it that this works? But I don't know why, but it does.
Right.
And the reason why it does is because he's so different, it constantly piques your curiosity.
Right.
You are constantly activated in that curiosity of what is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? And it's great. It's not in a bad way at all. It is all very just like beautiful curiosity.
Right.
To have somebody so different from you is something that you really, truly cherish.
Right. That makes sense.
And I'm hearing he's a gift.
No, feels like it. Yeah.
I'm not getting that he's like super on a spiritual path, but he's super accepting of it as well. He sees what you do and he understands it. And he's like, yeah, that's really cool.
Right. Makes sense.
But I also don't see him as the type that he would sit in meditation for like 4 hours. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly.
like he can get behind the concepts and he can understand it and like supports it, but is not necessarily somebody who needs to walk that walk, so to speak, because he sort of embodies the qualities of a spiritual path.
Yeah.
Without actually having to say that that's what he's doing.
That's a good descriptive of him. Definitely.
Was there anything specific you wanted to know about him?
Do I have a soul contract with him?
You do.
Okay. It feels like it. It's good. It sounds bright. Sounds good. It's different. So different, Annette. He is. Yeah.
And that's why they're saying it's a gift.
Yeah.
This is the gift that you gave to yourself. So when you were in your soul planning meeting, you're like, okay, after I go through all this crap and after I get through it all, like this is my reward, like to have this really beautiful connection. And that connection is what you have. And the soul contract that you have together is a light one. So a lot of times we have soul contracts where you have to like help each other and you have to help him do this and he has to help you do this or blah, 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 blah. This is not that kind of soul contract. This contract is kind of like, we're just here to appreciate each other.
Yeah. And I think that that's what feels good right now with the whole thing is it's definitely not what I'm used to. He's very free and he intuitively found me and I trusted, and he's been very kind of like we have, work to do, but the good stuff, we spend a lot of time laughing and we're like childlike. And that whole thing that I told you about feeling like a kid again, it happens when I'm with him. There's a lightness to it, extra hard laughing. And,
oh, that's great.
Where you can just,
belly laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important.
Sounds about right. Feels good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're saying not to worry.
No good.
I feel like your worry is rooted in, I feel like we were supposed to do more or we are supposed to do more. Like the worry is sort of more rooted in where's the lesson?
Yeah.
And there isn't any. There is no lesson in this.
Right. Just be. Yeah, I love it. I think coming from one of my concerns that I think I may have voiced at the beginning is just the exhaustion from feeling anxious and wanting things to always be perfect. That wears me out.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering I want to take that coat off. I want to graduate that coat. I want to take that part off and just show up and trust that I'm already enough.
They're showing me that sort of idea of, let's say if you and him were painting together and you start chucking paint at each other and you're just totally covered in paint and you're laughing hysterically and you're imperfect, your hair is disheveled, your shirt is untucked, there's just all kinds of crap everywhere and you're just on the floor laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the idea and energy of what imperfection is.
Oh, thank you for that.
It's letting go.
You're right. God. And I think that I love hearing that. I can do that anytime with myself. I don't have to change that costume every time I go out into the world, especially around somebody that I'm really a connection. I won't risk it.
Yeah.
I think my worry, because I know the guides are saying, don't worry. I think that worry is rooted in losing a good feeling instead of just going with the flow, which is what he always says. It's just it's just every time we fall into the flow instead of push, because there's no pushing this, because it's just easy. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Oh, how funny that he's reminding you of what you are knowing in your soul, that this is what you're meant to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting. The laughter comes with letting go.
Yeah.
The challenge is that there have been few times in your life where you have felt that you could let your guard down enough and be accepted for who you are.
Yes. Yeah. I'm wacky as shit.
And that's a beautiful thing.
In the most delightful way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let that wacky self be seen.
Be seen. Thank you. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is really great.
All right. So then let's take a look at the throat chakra thing that we saw. I do want to address that. It's going to be a small thing, but I do feel like it needs to be addressed. Okay. So this lifetime that we're going to look at is just after the lifetime where you died of smallpox. I'm hearing you had a very sharp tongue in that next life.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because it's an overcorrection of not being able to express yourself in the previous life.
Yeah, truly.
The lifetime after that, you were like, I'm going to say everything. And you did. And you didn't care who it hurt. You didn't care what happened. You were just like, I'm just going to speak whatever's on my mind. And you did. And it was not so great in a lot of respects. It was harmful to a couple of your relationships. I'm seeing that you're a man in this lifetime.
Oh, wow.
Interestingly enough, that's fascinating. It ended up hurting a lot of the women in your life. So I'm hearing your mom was hurt, your girlfriends, I'm hearing wives. So there were 2 wives, one after the other. So it's almost as if you became the thing that you hated in the previous life, but not in a controlling way. More so in I'm just going to tell it like it is, and didn't really have that, for lack of a better term, bedside manner. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So that's the other thing that you started to work on in that lifetime. Towards the end of your life, you started realizing how hurtful some of your words could be. It was your second wife that helped you to understand that. And she's the one that helped you to kind of soften the way that you communicated. She was like the love of that life. The first wife was a sort of obligation. She died in childbirth. And then the second wife was for love. And you really did listen to her. You respected her. And yeah, she definitely softened that sharp tongue. Oh, wow. Okay. So the wife that died in childbirth, she had a daughter. And so when you had the new wife, she kind of stepped in as the mom. She stepped in when your daughter was 2 years old. And once she got a little bit older, she saw how you were speaking to your daughter. And she was like, oh, no, that's not happening. Like she kind of put her foot down and was like, like you are going to treat her with respect. You are going to speak to her with kindness. And you listened.
Wow.
You did have 2 other children with the second wife. They both were boys. Oh. And you taught them, after you learned how to tame the way that you spoke, you taught them how to speak kindly as well. You both did. It was part of that life purpose in that lifetime because it's like you wanted that energy of kindness to women, kindness in general. And not kind just for the sake of being kind, but being compassionate and kind and speaking the truth without harming.
Right.
And that is an art. And that is an art that you eventually learned from your wife and then passed on to your sons, which then spread that energy even further because then they treated their wives when they grew up, they treated them with respect and things like that. So it really was kind of like a domino effect. And it was something that was really beautiful. It wasn't something you even recognized when you were alive during that time, but like as an energy, it was a really beautiful energy to witness in that time.
That's great.
Those little black streaks that I saw in your throat chakra, that's what that lifetime, that's what it was about.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it?
So yeah, every time you are in a place where you're like, I'm just going to tell it like it is, and you're not going to consider where it might be coming from or who it might be hurting.
Yeah.
That's a moment to just take a step back, observe the orchestration of it, and see where that person is coming from. Are they coming from their hurt? Are they coming from a place of not understanding? Are they coming from a place of not being awakened?
Yeah, exactly.
Are they coming from a place of control? Because sometimes when people are coming from a place of being controlled, they have a whole list of things in their brains that aren't even theirs.
Right, right.
They're just spouting off whatever because it's something that they have heard or seen or experienced in society, and they don't question it.
Right.
And so we have to look at each conversation as an opportunity to turn the energy towards the flow.
Yeah.
You can't force anybody to be in the flow. It's the exact opposite energy, right?
Yes. And I think that's been the relief of not being with my past partner is that there was it was a very controlled relationship and my emotions were stepped down but I always tried to look at him when he would come at me with looking at it holistically, trying to see the big picture all the time with him. I'm glad I'm not having to manage that all the time, but yeah, that's a good reminder with everybody and all interactions for sure. I like that.
They're giving me a visual right now where oftentimes you've heard this a million times from other practitioners, I'm sure, but the idea of being in the flow is like going downstream. Abraham Hicks talks about that all the time.
Yeah.
And to enable yourself to go downstream, you need to just let go of the rock that you're clinging to. And so for you with your ex-husband or partner?
Husband, yeah.
So with your ex-husband, basically the second you decided to let go, the stream just pulled you away from him so quickly because you were able to let go and all of a sudden you're in your flow and he's still clinging to that rock.
Yeah, I did. Right.
And he's probably still there.
I feel like that.
If there's any takeaway from this that the guides want you to embody, is everything you do needs to be in service of helping and allowing people to let go of the rock.
Great.
And you do that by leading by example and being in the flow yourself.
Okay. I love that.
And as you're in the flow, you're going down your river and you see somebody clinging to a rock. You're like, hey, let go. Come on, let's go. It's fun. It's fun. Let's go.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that. No, that's great.
They're like, where are you going? You're like, I don't know. Let's just go.
Watch out for that rock and don't hold it.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's awesome. I like that. I love the sound of, because it's becoming my language, is I am compelled to be of service. It feels like a very progressive and an action that makes me feel like the world's really a special place and it just continues to be no matter what. And I like that.
Yeah.
Being a part of that energy. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. I am going to close the Akashic Records. Thank you to Aquila, my Akashic guide. Thank you to Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon for guiding us today in this session. The records are closed. The records are closed. The records are closed. Thank you. Okay. How do you feel?
Good. Everything just feels good.
Good. I'm glad.
Very affirming, very encouraging, and just love the idea of just not worrying. Just make sure that I just kind of keep going with the flow and just be open like I've been.
Yep.
Keep my heart open, heart center open, and just keep moving in the direction I'm already going.
Exactly.
Which feels exhilarating and super exciting.
Oh, I'm so glad. Wonderful.
Thanks for the time. It was magical.
You are so very welcome. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. I would like to thank Leena for allowing me to use this session for an episode of the podcast. Communication is such a really important part of our daily lives. How we communicate with others, how we communicate with ourselves, how we communicate with our angels and guides and our spirit team. There are so many things that I would like to touch on today regarding communication. The first is how we communicate with ourselves and what we discuss with others. We've all been through traumas. We've all been through some sort of challenge in this life. One of the things that I have noticed over the course of my journey is that the longer I talk about something, or the more I talk about something, the more it stays active in my energy field. So does it mean that when you stop talking about something, it goes away? Not necessarily. But if it is already cleared from your energy, let's say, if you've already moved on from this situation, but you're still telling the story, you are reactivating that energy over and over and over again. I remember back when I was in college, I did an art exhibit for my photography class. And I may have mentioned this before, but it is worth mentioning again because it was something that was very important to me. And essentially what I did was it was a series of 20 photographs. And in each photograph, there were repetitive elements in the photograph itself. And this is back in college, so they ask you to accompany it with an artist statement. So my artist statement started with the very first sentence. And then the second photo, it was the first and the second sentence. Third photo, first, second, third sentence, and so on and so forth. Until by the time you get to the 20th photograph, you had the full artist statement. And this artist statement was about how each time I tell a story about something that has happened to me or an experience I've had, it becomes less mine the more I tell that story. It becomes less personal. It becomes less potent. And at the time, I don't think I realized that what was happening was I was actually dispersing that energy. I was getting that energy out. So many people get that energy out in different ways. Some people journal. You might do somatic movements. You might go to a Reiki therapist. You might do all kinds of things to get that energy out. But at the time, I wasn't necessarily spiritually aware. So I was getting that energy out in whatever way I could. And for me, it's always been storytelling. It's always been telling people my story. Now, over the course of the years, I've had some issues with that because maybe it's keeping that active in my energy field too long. Maybe it's keeping me in that victim mentality too long. Maybe it's something that I really just shouldn't be keeping the energy of. And so how do you know when you're still holding on to energy that is already gone, or if you still need to get that energy out? And that is something only you can decide and feel into in your energy of whether or not you still feel an emotional trigger to it. Oftentimes, what will happen is the universe will show you whether or not you are emotionally triggered by that situation, because you might get that situation again and again and again in your life. And then once it's no longer there, then you can rest easy. You can stop talking about it and you can move forward. Similar to Leena, when we were discussing her current partner, and she was nervous because most of the other relationships that she's had in the past have been not necessarily in the highest vibration for her. And so that is something that I have also struggled with in this lifetime, which is deciding when it's time to let go. As we talked about in the session, it's like letting go of that rock and going with the flow. And the way that you can do that is asking yourself why you're holding onto that rock. Why are you stopping the flow? Are you afraid? In my case, with romantic relationships, I'm often afraid that it's going to turn out exactly the way that my previous relationships have ended, or that I'm going to experience the same things of abandonment, or I will experience the same things of not being appreciated or taken for granted. The things are all in the past. They are not anything that is happening right now in this moment. So why am I clinging to that past emotion of what if? And so those are things that we work on as we move forward on our journey. We learn to say, I can let go now. I can let go of this rock and I can go with the flow. And I loved that moment in the session when we were both laughing, Leena and I, about, well, where are you going after you let go of the rock? And it's like, I don't know, just follow me. Let's go. It's so good because it's such a fun energy. It's such a light energy, and it's exciting and wonderful to not know and to explore what that might look like. But when I was listening back to this session and I was connecting in myself about some of the fears that I've had in the past, it has a lot to do with bracing yourself for not being prepared for something bad to happen again, for some trauma to happen or something that you don't want to have happen. It doesn't have to be a trauma. It can just be something like, maybe you get rejected, or maybe the person you are interested in isn't interested in you. It doesn't have to be some big, huge thing. It can be something smaller, but, sort of bracing yourself for the inevitability in your own mind of this thing not working out. And so this is where you start getting into things like future telling. And I talk about this all the time. I was really deeply, heavily into, I need to know what's going on. I have to know. And so I was like a tarot card fiend because I wanted to know what was going on. Not really realizing that communication with our guides and with our higher self and our inner being, it's there to make sure that we are in the flow, on the right path, getting a heads up if there's anything that's sort of off kilter. And now that you're connected to your intuition, which anybody who's listening to this podcast, you are connected to your intuition, whether you realize it or not. It is something that you can kind of start to let go of, because maybe prior to now, you weren't connected as much to your intuition. And yeah, maybe there were times when you walked into a pothole and it was not a good one, and you had to sort of recover from that. Being in the flow means that you are trusting the universe. You're trusting the trajectory that you have set up for your soul when you were on the other side before you incarnated. And even if you come up to a challenge that you have what it takes within you to get through that challenge. You have the tools, you have the energy, and you have the absolute support from your spirit team to get through whatever it is you need to get through. I've said this before, we are not here to just have an easy time of it. We're here to learn and grow. So we're not always going to have an easy time, but it doesn't have to be super hard either. So as it pertains to letting go of the past, not talking to your friends about all the horrible things that happened to you with your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Doesn't matter how long ago it was. It doesn't need to be spoken of anymore. There are times when I do end up telling stories from the past because of context, or people want to know how I got through something in context of my healing, that sort of thing. That's a little bit different because I will actually censor out the more negative pieces. I will talk about what happened, but I won't sit there and bitch and complain about every little thing that happened, right? I will say it from a standpoint of being more in that neutral energy, that more matter-of-fact energy, telling the story from that perspective. And I can do that now because I've worked through it and I'm no longer in that heightened emotional state. When you are still in that heightened emotional state, it's not to say that you cannot talk about it and that you cannot get those things out. What we're talking about here is prolonging it to the point of suffering, prolonging it to the point of continuing to manifest something in your life that no longer needs to be manifested. You've learned your lesson, or maybe you haven't, or maybe you've learned part of the lesson and there's another part of the lesson that needs to come in. If you don't have the tools that you feel you need to get through, start asking for help. Start looking for those tools and start communicating with your higher self, your angelic team, and say, this is too much. I can't handle it. Please help me. Ask your loved ones, your support team, your best friends, anyone that you can connect to that you know you can rely on to give you a bit of advice or a bit of a boost or maybe a break or maybe some laughter. Maybe that's what you need. But whatever it is, make sure you're trying to get into the energy of communicating consciously, understanding why you're communicating. And when you do, helping the other person understand the reason for the communication. Do you just need to vent? Are you looking for advice? Are you looking for something to help you in some way? And that's really important to communicate with somebody, is to let them know what you need to do. So this happened just recently. My sister gave me a call and she said, I just need to vent and I need some validation right now about something. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm like, okay, I can absolutely listen and I can give her points of validation that I feel were in agreement with what she was talking about. And that's what she needed in that moment. And that's what I was able to give her. One of the reasons why this type of communication is important as well is because this allows that flow to happen. One of the things we talked about in Leena's session was about how she is a connector, and that's what her job is as a soul, and how other people or other souls in her same soul position in the past have used that orchestrator role or that connector role to manipulate, to control. And everybody's soul purpose can have an element of distortion if it is not expressed in the unconditionally loving way that it is meant to. And so when you are in conversation with somebody, are you trying to control the narrative? Are you trying to control what they're doing, saying, how they feel, think, believe? Or are you just allowing? Are you allowing things to just unfold the way that they're going to? Are you trying to manipulate? Are you trying to get a certain outcome by communicating a certain thing? I've known people in my life who have done that. And I don't know that they do it consciously, but I do know that they have done it many times, and I've experienced it where they will say things to the contrary just to see if they can get a reaction out of me, or just to see if I would stand up for myself, or, you know, those types of people who want to be the devil's advocate, if you will, just for the sake of argument. And it's not to say that those are bad conversations. It's just inauthentic communication. The person is not communicating from their higher self, from their heart space. They're trying to manipulate a situation or a conversation. So if you know somebody who is like that, then you can very lovingly and caringly say to them, I would really love to hear what you feel in your own heart. I don't want to hear what you think you want me to hear or some sort of argument you would like to start. I would like to hear what you authentically feel in your heart. And some people might be able to receive that and some people might not. Some people might not know what to do with that at all. And that's okay. But you don't have to remain in conversations or in communication with somebody who is trying to manipulate the conversation. There is a time and a place for all sorts of different types of communication. One of the things that we discussed in this session as well was the fact that Leena was channeling. And most people who are in creative fields are channeling. The people who are connected into that divine universal knowledge and are able to interpret those concepts, whether it is on the canvas, whether it is through music or through art of any sort, dance, you name it, you're channeling. Channeling doesn't always have to be an expression of verbal communication. It can be a channeling of any sort that conveys a feeling or emotion or energy. One of the things I would like to discuss about channeling is that you're not always going to get a very compassionate, loving, soft message. It depends on who you are channeling. So if you are channeling, let's say, Archangel Michael, whom I channel quite often, Archangel Michael has a really stern type of energy. He's going to tell you like it is. And similarly to what Leena experienced in one of those previous lives where she was just sort of telling it like it is, no censor, just saying exactly what she is wanting to say. Archangel Michael does a bit of the same, although the difference is there is no human ego behind it. So there are times when we as humans communicate and we may say things that are frank. We may say things that are abrupt and even slightly harsh. And there are times when those particular words might be necessary, but it is the way in which we deliver them. It is the energy in which we deliver them that makes the difference. So when I get the information from Archangel Michael, and let's say you're asking a question of, am I on the right path and do I need to do something else? And he says something like, yes, you are on the right path, but you are in the wrong mindset. You need to change your thoughts. You need to do this. You need to do that. Like he will be very, very pointed in his communication. It's not going to be candy coated. And so if it is something that you are in resistance to, it might come off as something that is harsh. And I've had that conversation with clients before where the guides have told them, no, you shouldn't take that job. No, you shouldn't be in that relationship. No, you shouldn't do this, that, or the other thing. And when I am delivering that message, a lot of times I will sort of redirect the words, so to speak. If I'm not in a direct channel, I will deliver the information in a way that I know in my intuition that the client can receive it. If they need the sort of more stern words, I will deliver them in that way if necessary. But for the most part, I will try to soften the information if I know that the client is going to be resistant to it. What's really interesting is one of the things that the angels and guides are showing me right now is when you are on the other side and you don't have this human avatar anymore, there is no filter. Your energy doesn't lie. Your energy is exactly your energy, and how you interact with other energies is exactly how you interact. There is no filter. And so when our angels and our guides communicate with us, they do have a filter of sorts that they will use in order to help us to understand, to communicate with us better, to help us see where we need to go, even if we don't know the big picture. So it's interesting to hear this from the guides as well, because it makes a lot more sense that the messages or the information that you get from divine source energy, from the universal consciousness, it is just information. It is energy. And there's no emotion about it, if you will. It is all just truth. So our challenge here on this planet is to still stay in our truth while communicating in a way that is loving, that can be understood, that is in the flow, and that is uplifting all of us to our higher timelines. And as Leena said, helping us to be more of service. And the last thing I want to mention about that, a lot of people really love to use the phrase, I need to be of service. My soul mission is to be of service. And of course, mine is as well. I want to clarify for all of you out there who also are of service that being of service does not mean self-sacrifice. Being of service means doing the work on yourself, being able to get to a place of understanding of who you are and being able to set the boundaries, ask for what you need, get the support you need, communicate well, and make sure your cup is full before you start to be of service. That is the shift and the change that is going on now. In the past, being of service meant you had to give up everything in your life in order to do so. And that is simply not the case anymore. In order for you to be effective, you need to be strong in your energy. You need to be fluid in the flow of your life, and you need to be rooted and grounded in that beautiful unconditional love. Thank you so much to everyone for listening this season. It's been such a pleasure connecting to all of you who have booked sessions, for all of you who have joined Soul Discovery Workshop and Soul Discovery Group. I'm looking forward to connecting with you next season. New episodes will be coming out in the next few months. Usually I take about a 3 to 4 month break. So pay attention to this space when new episodes will be returning. I will on occasion do a little channeled message here and there. And until then, I'm sending you all tons and tons of love, and I can't wait till we connect again. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would be really amazing if you could like, share, and subscribe. Wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple or Spotify, feel free to give it a review if you feel called. If you are following me on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you are notified for every single new episode of the Akashic Recordings. If you feel called to book a session with me, you can always reach me at infinitesoullove.com, and you can book directly on my website. Thank you so much for all of your support, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.